address the petitioner and only laid in the House. But I'll allow just 3 minutes, Senator Githiomi, and maybe another 2 minutes for Professor Ongeri, but we should not waste a lot of time on it. We are going out of our way to accommodate the request by Senator Ongeri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. The petition was basically to vary the boundaries of Nyagweta Forest. The petition was brought by the Kisii Governor, Honorable Ogwae, on behalf of the Kisii community. Mr. Speaker, Nyagweta Forest is in South Mugirango sub-county in Kisii County. The purpose of the petition was to excise Nyagweta Forest to create land for development of a sugar industry. Mr. Speaker, the county government needs 120 acres of land to be excised from Nyagweta Forest. But the county government also is ready to give out 400 acres to the ministry.
Order, senators, consult quietly. But in the meantime, the leaders of political parties and the whips are reminded we have items for division, quite a number of them. So I'm waiting for the earliest signal so that we can proceed to do division. Proceed, Senator Githiomi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I was saying the county government needs 120 acres for the purpose of developing a sugar factory. And this is supposed to be excised from the 400 hectares of Nyagweta Forest. Mr. Speaker, the county government is also ready to give out to the Ministry of Environment 400 acres so that the Ministry of Environment can plant trees to ensure that there is forestation in Kisii County. Mr. Speaker, we've talked to the Sugar Directorate, and the Sugar Directorate has no problem availing with the factory being put up in Kisii. When the factory is put up in Kisii, it will be in tandem with the policy of industrialization. And Mr. Speaker, sir, this factory is going to create employment for the people of Kisii, and is going to create a market for the cane farmers who are in Kisii. Mr. Speaker, the Kisii government, county government has engaged various stakeholders. And Mr. Speaker, they have also done public participation. And the wish of the Kisii residents is that this land be availed for the purposes of building the sugar industry. Mr. Speaker, sugar industry alone cannot be economical, as we have seen a lot of sugar industries not performing at the moment. So, Mr. Speaker, they also want to develop an ethanol plant, and they also want to create generation of electricity. Mr. Speaker, the Sugar Directorate, when we talk to them, they are not opposed to this project. And Mr. Speaker, sir, 5 of the 13 forest areas have already been gazetted by the Ministry of Environment, meaning that there are only 7 other portions which are supposed to be gazetted. And these 7 portions have been surrendered to the Ministry of Environment. So it is the duty of the Ministry of Environment to gazette the 7 other portions, Mr. Speaker.
So what are the recommendations of the committee?
The recommendations of the committee is that the 120 acres should be availed for the purposes of the construction of the sugar factory.
And you have consulted all the stakeholders?
Yeah, we have consulted all the stakeholders. The Kisii County government is the one that has brought the petition to us, the Sugar Directorate, the National Land Commission. We have consulted all the stakeholders.
Very well. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much.
Senator Ongeri, you're the one who asked for this.
Mr. Speaker, when I made that request, I made it under Standing Order number 225, comments on petitions, and I accept your indulgence on this debate. I want to thank the Committee of Lands for having gone into the details of this report. This is a report that appeared in the last Senate, the 11th Senate House. And because of limitation of time, it never was able to see the light at the end of it. And then the clerk from here requested that we should be able to get the request renewed, and this was renewed. Now, you will be wondering that although we are talking as a forest, this is really a plantation that was done by the Kisii County government. And in pursuit of this factory, because there is no single factory, manufacturing factory in the entire Kisii County and in Nyamira County, this will be the only factory that will be able to help in being jump-starting the economic growth of that area, and it belongs squarely on the plantation area. And therefore, the county government took a step to be able to provide additional land, various pieces of land which are necessary.
Senator Ongeri, I will give you not more than 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. The county government took the steps to provide other pieces of lands. There are 13 of them. And when you aggregate the acreage of those 13, amounts to about 400 hectares of land, which is equivalent to about 800 to 900 acres of land. This area where we want the factory to be sited happens to have a slightly extra acreage, and that's why we want the factory to be in South Mogrango at Nyangweta region. We have already gazetted under the Forestry Service 18.7 hectares of land in that forest. So the rest of 48 hectares is what should be available in lieu of also giving back and giving back to the forestry department. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, 6 of them have been gazetted, and they are available to Kenya Forestry Services, so there is no loss. In fact, anything else, there is an addition. And in terms of the forest cover, we will be able to endeavor to do so, because already we have done some tree plantations to an extent which is satisfactory. The county government has set aside more than 10 million to be able to be proactive in creating a greater forest than it has been hitherto. So, Speaker, I want you to take the indulgence that the Kisii has no factory. This will be the first factory which will bring in sugar production. I'm sure it will be sugar-free of mercury and many other ingredients and other interesting things. And this will be in the interest of Kenyans because it will be a pure product. Besides, it will also create an ethanol plant, which will also help in the industrial chemical production. And thirdly, it will also create, give extra megawatts to the national generation in electricity, and therefore it has a multiplicity of problems. The benefits to the local community is through the services, health centers, social corporate responsibility, health centers and schools, the roads and the infrastructure, and also helping the local people to develop cane. At the moment, the cane which is there, it over-matures because they are subject to the mercy of other surrounding factories which are at a distance. And therefore, the local residents have fallen into the habit of making jaggery, which produces changa. And changa is not a desirable social element in our society. And for us to be able to cut out all those unnecessary antisocial elements, we need now to give a substantive factory which will be able to sustain the livelihoods and the success of the people in this factory. With those few remarks, I plead with this Senate that you allow us to be able to go ahead with this thing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Senators, order. What is out of order, Senator Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker, this House passed a law called Transactions Subject to Ratification by Parliament, which, Mr. Speaker, I do remember was sponsored by the then Leader of Majority, who's today sitting on the chair. Natural Resources, Classes of Transactions Subject to Ratification Act. Mr. Speaker, my point of order is a committee in order to make a recommendation via a response to a petition that the excision should proceed when that particular act then provides the procedures for such excision. Could the chair confirm to this House that his recommendation is to be done in line with the act, or can he tell us that he has given the people of Kisii a blank check to proceed with excision?
Order, Senator Githiomi, before I give you the floor. Order first. Order. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from Jainairo Academy School in Homa Bay County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Very well. Senator Githiomi, you have heard the concern from Senator Moses Kajwang.
Yes, I have heard the concern, Mr.
That
Speaker.
this is a matter that, in his opinion, requires parliamentary approval in light of the law he has cited. Did you consider that act of parliament?
Mr. Speaker, we did not as a committee consider that act, and that is the more the reason why we've brought this report to the House for debate, so that the House can see what is best to do with the report.
Order, Senator. So you did not, Senator Zawadi, proceed to your seat. So you did not consult this law. However, I want to bring to your attention that there is no provision for debate as such for petitions. Once the petitioner receives the report and the report is laid, a copy is laid to the table of the Senate, that's basically it. But just for my information, is your case that you deliberately avoided looking at the relevant laws and said that will happen once you table your report, that the other senators will help you look at the law?
Mr. Speaker, sir, just like...
Order, Senator Omogeni, order.
Mr. Speaker, just like it was not deliberate for the microphone not to respond, we did not deliberately refuse to look at this act. We were guided by various many laws, Mr. Speaker, sir, and nobody brought to our attention that there was the law that Senator Kajwang is talking about.
Very well, okay. Senator Kajwang, anything further than that? He has admitted that they didn't look at this law.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to raise that because Article 71 of the Constitution requires us to make that consideration. However, Mr. Speaker, I'm informed by my neighbor, Professor Ngeri, that this particular forest is not gazetted because that particular requirement is for excision or change of boundaries of gazetted forest.
That is good information. Now, honorable senators, we have to make haste. I will now not, actually we need to vote. We need to vote. So, what is it, Senator Sakaja? You're on a point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to the second schedule of the standing orders on the previous two petitions that you have given direction on, there was a petition relating to Bomu Hospital in Mombasa that you have then committed jointly to the Committee on Health as well as the Committee of Labor and Social Welfare. Mr. Speaker, if you read through the second schedule of our standing orders, in terms of the respective mandates of committees, there is nowhere in that petition, whether from the body or from the prayers, that the Committee on Labor and Social Welfare that I chair comes in. I think in relation to the NGO Coordination Board, the correct committee is likely to be the Committee on Security and Defense. Mr. Speaker, I wish to urge you to reconsider the committal of that petition to the appropriate committees as required so that it can be processed properly. And even as you do that, Mr. Speaker, the bulk or the thrust of that, the prayers in that petition are for the access of quality, affordable healthcare, which in my reading and reading of the standing orders is a preserve of the Committee on Health, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I posit that the Committee on Health is competent enough to handle that on its own. Joint committees come with their peculiar challenges, Mr. Speaker, of quorum, hitches, and different matters under committees. So ideally, if you could just commit it to the Committee of Health, if it has to be joint, then it will be Health and Security. But ideally, so we don't spread our committees too thin, I'm sure Senator Mbito's committee is competent enough to handle that matter on their own.
I think you're raising a valid point, Senator Sakaja. I know your reference to Security Committee here is because of the NGO board. Senator Mbito, is this something that your committee can handle?
I think this is a matter that my committee can effectively handle. Thank you.
What is it, Senator Wetangula?
Speaker, in relation to the petition from Kisii.
Not there yet, Senator Wetangula.
You're coming back to it?
We are not yet there, yeah.
Oh,
We need to dispose of the point of order from Senator Sakaja first.
Thank you.
So I review my own direction and direct that the Health Committee deals with the petition on the health facility in Mombasa, Changamwe. So ordered. Honorable Senators, party leaders, whips, allow this House to proceed to dispense with the division today. So ideally, nobody should leave. We are voting in the next few minutes. Number two, the issue of the petition from Kisii really does not as such require debate. So what I will do now, I'll allow only 3 senators a maximum of 3 minutes each and no extra minute, no extra time. 3 minutes or under. I'll start with Senator Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, I've listened very carefully to the report by the chair of the committee, and thank you for allowing us to make a comment. Mr. Speaker, the report begs several questions. If there was no forest that was gazetted, what is being excised? Because you can only excise a forest that exists and that is duly gazetted as a forest. Number two, Mr. Speaker, this House will be setting a very dangerous trend in a country that is forest deficient, in a country where our forest cover is less than 5%, as against the UN recommendation of a minimum of 10%, and as against comparable jurisdictions like Korea and Japan that are doing 70%, for us, for whatever reason, to excise a forest. Mr. Speaker, if, and this is with the greatest respect to my distinguished colleague, the Senator for Kisii, who has supported the recommendations, Mr. Speaker, if there is already land which is not a forest, why can the factory be built on land which is not a forest instead of excising a forest and then compensate the excised forest with another land? That's number one, Mr. Speaker. Number two, I also want to caution my colleagues from areas that are craving to delve into sugar production, that they should probably pay a visit to Western and Nyanza regions of this country, particularly areas of Muhoroni, Miwani, Mumias, Soni, Nzoia, and see the level of poverty that cane farming has visited on the people of this region. Mr. Speaker, it is such a sorry state that I feel for the people of our very loved Count of Kisii to start venturing into an adventure, a misadventure that has ruined lives everywhere. The poor of the poor today, Mr. Speaker, in this country are the cane farmers. They are suffering immensely, and the factories are closed, and the factories have debts that nobody can imagine. And Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage the people of Kisii. They are very good farmers in tea. They are very good farmers in coffee, crops that are putting money in people's pockets, so that they can think twice. My last point, Mr. Speaker, my last point is that this House should not make the public believe wrongly that we have an authority in law or in the Constitution to allow excision of forests. We don't have such authority. And Mr. Speaker, we should be careful how we deliver our verdicts here, because that verdict is sending signals that appear to indicate that you can come into Mount Elgon and excise a forest with the concurrence of this Senate. You can go to Mount Kenya and excise a forest with the concurrence of this Senate. That is not the case, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Senator Wetangula. Thank you. Order, Senators, I have the following communications to make. The first one, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from St. Jacob's Educational Center School in Uasin Gishu County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. The second communication, Honorable Senators, is with regard to students and teachers from Segero Adventist Primary School in Uasin Gishu County who are in the public gallery this afternoon. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Finally, for now, Honorable Senators, I would similarly like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from Grace Gardens High School, Nairobi County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Order, Senators, we unfortunately have to come to the end of comments on this issue because we need to proceed with voting now. So before we proceed to vote, Yes, we'll come back to order number 5, 6, and 7. After we do the divisions, we'll come back later to order number 4, 5, not number 4, number 5, 6, and 7. Order, senators. Order, Senator Were. Senator Were, can you whip quietly? Order, Senator Fadhia. Honorable Senators, I have just directed that the items in your order paper, order number 5, number 6, and number 7, we'll return to them later. With regard to the items that are up for division today, we will defer a number of the items upon consultations with the sponsors of those bills, as well as the deliberations and recommendations of the Senate Business Committee earlier today. Therefore, we will defer division on the irrigation bill, order number 11. We will similarly defer division on the roads bill, which appears in order number 12. And therefore, we can proceed accordingly. Next order.
Order number 8, the retirement benefits, Deputy President and designated staff officers, Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 2 of 2018, division at second reading.
Very well. I direct that the bell be rung for 2 minutes. And senators, as earlier communicated, we need to rush through this. So please be patient. Do not leave the chamber until we have finished this exercise. 2 minutes for the bell. Very well. The bell has stopped ringing. Senators, resume your seats. Order, senators, it is voting time. Resume your seats. Honorable senators, I now direct that the doors be locked and that the bar be drawn. Whips, party leaders, I hope we are good to go. Very well. I now put the question, which is that the retirement benefits, order. Order, senators, I now put the question, which is that the retirement benefits Deputy President and designated state officers amendment bill, Senate Bill number 2 of 2018, be read a second time. Please log in for voting, honorable senators. Order, Senator Lelegwe, are you able to vote from there? It is against the standing orders not to be at your habitual position of sitting during voting. Ensure you are logged in. Are we good to go? What is it, Senator Haji? Order, Senator, you are not on record. You are not on record. Can you put on the microphone?
Sir, my point of order is whether we can vote manually because we are wasting a lot of time waiting for this thing.
Very well, let's give it another minute or so before we can determine whether we can use other methods of voting.
Thank you, sir.
And vote now. You have 1 minute, senators. Now you can vote 1 minute, either yes or no or abstention. Order senators, please vote. Vote now. Vote now, 20 seconds to go. Vote 18 so far. Assisted voters, come forward, led by Senator Haji. Order, senators. Order. Order, senators. These are the results of the division. Abstention, 0. Noes, 0. Ayes, 25. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Retirement Benefits, Deputy President and Designated State Officers Act.
What is it, Senator? Can that be looked at?
Even the screen was showing one abstention.
Let us wait for a report from the tallying center. Order, Senator Wetangula, it is true. And therefore I will read the results again. The abstention is 1. The no is 0. The ayes is 24. Still the ayes have it. Next order. 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 Order, senators. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from Kanyangi Primary School, Kitui County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them. And on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. What is it, Senator Wambua? We are constrained. We are in.
Mr. Speaker, you allow me just 1 minute to join you in welcoming students from Kanyangi Primary School into the chamber, and say that the students of Kanyangi Primary School, Kanyangi is in Kitui Rural Constituency of Kitui County, encourage the students, Mr. Speaker, to spend their time in this chamber to learn and to be inspired to become responsible leaders in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 9, the County Statistics Bill, Senate Bills number 9 of 2018, division at second reading.
All right, I think we are all here. We can proceed. Shall we proceed with the vote? The question is, order, senators. I put the question, which is the County Statistics Bill, Senate Bill number 9 of 2018, be read a second time. Get ready to vote, senators. Vote now. Vote now, senators. Order, senators, you can vote now. You have 1 minute. You either vote yes or no or abstention. Order Senator Wambua, order Senator Malala. Vote now. We may have to repeat, or is it working for some senators and not the others? I see 20 have already voted. You have 10 seconds to vote. 20 have already voted. End of voting. Assisted voters. Assisted voters. Assisted voters. Approach the clerk's table and record your votes. Assisted voters. Assisted voters. Order Senator Khaniri. Senator Kinyua. Order, Senator, I hope everybody has voted in one way or the other. Standing Order 80, paragraph 1, requires that you must vote either yes or no or abstain. And paragraph 2 of the same standing order provides that it amounts to disorderly conduct to be present in the chamber and not vote. Order, Senator Khaniri. Senator Khaniri, you have not voted. The record does not indicate your vote. So proceed to the clerk's table as a voter who is unable to vote electronically. Order, Senator Khaniri. Order, Senator Omogeni. This is not a swearing in or something. There are no provisions of escorting a voter to be. Actually, it amounts to disorderly conduct. The same standing order 80. Paragraph 5. You are supposed to resume at your designated seat unless you are caused by exigencies like Senator Khaniri. Very well. Order, Senators, these are the results of this division. Abstentions, 1. Noes, 0. Ayes, 26. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide a framework for the collection, compilation, analysis, and dissemination of statistical information to establish a county statistics office, to establish the office of the county statistician, and for connected purposes.
Very well. Next order.
Order
Does
number 10, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2018, division at second reading.
We are all here. Let's proceed to vote. Senators, vote now. You have 1 minute, but I have not. Order. Order. Wait a minute, wait, don't vote. Order, Senators, I now put the question, which is that the Salaries and Remuneration Commission Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 12 of 2018, be read a second time. Vote. Vote. Senator Dr. Mirgo, you are in contravention of Standing Order 80, paragraph 5. It says during division, senators shall maintain order in the Senate and shall be in their designated seats and shall remain seated until the results are announced. Assisted voters, probably read by Senator George Khaniri of Vihiga County. Let us expedite. So far, so good. Order, Senator Faki. Order, Senators, these are the results of the division. Abstention 0, no 0, ayes 27, the ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Salaries and Remuneration Commission Act and for connected purposes.
Next order, go to order number 13.
Order number 13, motion, report of the Sessional Committee on County Public Accounts and Investment on Financial Operations of the Kajiado County Executive for financial year 2013-2014 division.
The Senators, we are all here. I now put the question, which is that the House adopts the report of the Sessional Committee on County Public Accounts and Investments on the inquiry into the financial operations of Kajiado County Executive for the financial year 2013-2014, 1st July 2013 to 30th June 2014, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 10th May 2018. Let's proceed to vote. Senators, vote now. 45 seconds to go. Vote now. Thirty seconds left. End of voting. Assisted voters, please approach the clerk's table. Assisted voters, please approach the clerk's table. We need to make progress. Assisted voters, please expedite. Order, Senators, these are the results of the division. Abstention, 0. Noes, 0. Ayes, 27. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 14, motion. Report of the Sessional Committee on County Public Accounts and Investments on Financial Operations of Narok County Executive for financial year 2013-2014 division.
The Senators, I now put the question, which is that this House adopts the report of the Sessional Committee on the County Public Accounts and Investments on the inquiry into the financial operations of Narok County Executive for the financial year 2013-2014, 1st July 2013 to 30th June 2014, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 10th May 2018. Should proceed to vote now. Vote now. Senators, vote now. Twenty seconds to go. Vote now. Those who have not voted. End of voting. Assisted voters, approach the clerk's table. Assisted voters, please expedite. So far, so good. Order, Senator Malala. Order, Senators, these are the results of the division. Abstention 0, no 0, ayes 27, the ayes have it. Next order. This is the last division for today.
Order number 15, motion. Report of the Sessional Committee on County Public Accounts and Investments on financial operations of Turkana County Executive for financial year 2013-2014 division.
The Senators, I now put the question, which is that the House adopts the report of the Sessional Committee on the County Public Accounts and Investments on the inquiry into the financial operations of Turkana County Executive for the financial year 2013-2014, 1st July 2013 to 30th June 2014, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 10th May 2018. Shall we vote now? Vote now, Senators. Vote now. Order, Senators, I'm informed is a typo, which will be corrected. But it's Turkana County, we have already finished with Narok. End of voting. Assisted voters proceed to the clerk's table. Order, Senators, assisted voters. You know yourselves. Order Senator Professor Ongeri. Order Deputy Leader of Majority. I know you are performing official functions, but resume your seats for now. Order Senators, these are the results of our last division for today. As I congratulate you. Abstention, 0. Noes, 0. Ayes, 27. The ayes have it. I now direct that the doors be open and the bars withdrawn. Order Senators, well done this afternoon. Thank you for your cooperation. They should be repeated every other day. Order Senators, now I would like to reorganize the items on today's order paper, the remaining items for the convenience of the House, and upon consultations with the various sponsors and movers of different items as follows. The next very few minutes, we will dispense with the items appearing in order number 5, 6, and 7. So I'll start with that. We will start with that. After that, after we finish with order number 7, we will defer the item on order number 16, the same case for order number 17, the same case for order number 18, the same case for order number 19. So once we do order number 7, we will also defer the items in order number 20, order number 21, and upon transacting the item, the order number 7, we will go directly to order number 22. And I can see Senator Dr. Abdullahi is here. And then after that, the chair will give further directions if there will be time later this afternoon. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Papers, very quickly. Senator Fathia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, 31st July 2018. The traffic driving schools, driving instructors, and driving licenses rules 2018. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well, thank you, Senator Fathia. The next paper is to be led by Senator Professor Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, 31st July 2018. Report of the 49th session of the African Caribbean Pacific Parliamentary Assembly and the intersessional meeting of the ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly held on the 20th to 22nd March 2018 in Brussels, Belgium.
Thank you, Senator Professor Kamar. Order, Senators, order. Order. Order, Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from Reverend Mupus Junior Academy School, West Pokot County. In our tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Senator Kwamboka. Senator Kwamboka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to give notice of this motion that where the Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund was established on 11th March 2003 by then Ministry of Local Government to address the concerns of all homeless, destitute, and vulnerable persons in urban areas, and was registered as a body corporate in August 2010 under the trustees Perpetual Succession Cap 164 laws of Kenya. Further aware that the mandate of Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund includes coordinating rehabilitation activities for street families, conducting public education on donations and funding street families rehabilitation programs, managing, monitoring expenditure and disbursement of donations, and advising the government and other relevant agencies on matters relating to rehabilitation of the street families. Noting that Article 43(1) of the Constitution of Kenya provides for the right to every person to the highest attainable standard of health, accessible and adequate housing, adequate food and acceptable quality, clean and safe water in adequate quantities, education and social security. Concerned that the street family phenomenon has persisted despite the existence of the Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund, and street families do not enjoy the rights enshrined in the Constitution due to lack of a national policy on the rehabilitation of street families, with women and children being the primary victims. Cognizant that the Ministry of Devolution and ASAL areas, through the Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund, supports children and youth through charitable and community-based organizations which are vetted and approved for funding under the Rescue, Rehabilitation and Reintegration of Street Families program. Noting that both the national and county governments have a role to play in addressing the plight of street families across the country. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves that Ministry of Devolution and ASAL areas in collaboration with the Council of Governors, number 1, conducts a census of street families in all urban centers in the country to determine their numbers and demographics. 2, develops a clear policy on street families rehabilitation and reintegration at county level. And 3, tables an audit report of how funds allocated to the Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund have been utilized since the fund was established, indicating the impact of the rehabilitation exercise. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The next notice of motion is from Senator Ledama Olekina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to give notice of motion, approval of senators to serve in select committee, that pursuant to Standing Order 183, 212, and 213, the Senate approves the nomination of Senator Rose Nyamunga, MP, to serve in the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations in place of Senator James Orengo, EGH, SC, MP. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Olekina. The next notice of motion is from Senator Professor Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion. That this
Order,
House,
Senator Professor Kamar.
sorry,
You can't move.
I give notice.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion. That this House notes the report of the 49th session of the ACP Parliamentary Assembly and intersessional meeting of the ACP EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly held between the 20th and 22nd March 2018 in Brussels, Belgium, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 31st July 2018.
Thank you, Senator Professor Kamar. Before we go to the next statement, which is order number 7, the next order, which is order number 7, I will allow Senator Fatuma Dulo to lay a paper, which ought to have come earlier. Senator Dulo. Order, Senator Dulo, time is precious. Are you ready? If you are not ready and it's not an emergency, it can be done tomorrow. So ordered tomorrow. Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Order, senators, and statements. Order, Senator Kaniri. It's only you who has to issue a statement today. In the light of the good progress the Senate has made this day, I will enforce the 10 minutes maximum for your statement, either by yourself or even any other senator wants to make a comment, it should be within the 10 minutes. Proceed as advised, Senator Haniri. Order, Senator Haniri, you don't address the chair from where you are. You are one of the senators who is very conversant with standing orders. Very well, that item will be in tomorrow's order paper. Very well, next order.
Order number 22, motion. Need to review and evaluate the state of education in northern Kenya.
Senator Dr. Ali. It's advisable you use the dispatch box, Senator Ali, when you're moving a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I intend to move motion concerning the education sector in northern Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, there have been problems of education.
Order. Order, Senator Ali. Move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry about it. I didn't have the motion with me. Mr. Speaker, sir, is that aware that Article 43F of the Constitution of Kenya stipulates that every person has the right to education, and Article 53(1)B provides that every child has the right to free and compulsory basic education. Also aware that education is a basic need and a tool for intellectual empowerment and social political development. Further aware that education is a shared function between the national and the county levels of government, with the national government being responsible for primary, secondary, and higher education, while the county government is responsible for pre-primary education, village polytechnics, and home crafts centers. Cognizant that both levels of government complement each other in promoting sustainable education, concerned that the intake, uptake, and quality of education in the northern Kenya have adversely been affected owing to discrepancies in public resource allocation, insecurity, skewed staffing, and teacher training in the region. Further concerned that both the school completion rate and the national examination outcomes in the regions are poor, and that the number of students from northern Kenya who qualify for core courses in universities, colleges, technical schools, and village polytechnics is minimal compared to other parts of the country. Noting with concern that due to insecurity and other related concerns, the Teacher Service Commission, TAC, which is the body responsible for the employment and deployment of teachers, has in the recent past taken steps to transfer non-local teachers from the region, from the northern region of Kenya, to other parts of the country, concerned that the transfers have led to shortage of skilled teachers, which has been a major cause of the dismal performance in examinations in schools in the region. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to take the Standing Committee on Education to conduct an inquiry into the challenges facing the education sector in northern Kenya with a view to, 1, evaluating the effect of the teacher transfers from the region and recommending to the Ministry of Education policy measures to address the challenges. 2, evaluating the status of education infrastructure in the region and proposing solutions to mitigate the current and looming challenges. 3, proposing mechanisms for enhanced resource allocation at both levels of government to facilitate improved education facilities. And 4, assessing school intake, compared completion levels in the region in order to ascertain the impact of the challenges facing the schools and how this disadvantages the region compared to other parts of Kenya, and proposing ways of addressing the challenges, and that the committee submits a report to the Senate within 3 months of the adoption of this motion by the Senate. Madam Speaker, during the recent past, we have had problems of insecurity in the northern, especially in the northeastern parts of Kenya, where there have been problems recently. I think sometimes in the last 2 months, around 4 or 5 months ago, some 2 teachers were killed due to the Al-Shabaab problems, and TAC decided to remove all the teachers from northern parts of Kenya, and especially Wajir was affected seriously, where over 900 teachers were transferred at a go. And when it comes to issues like that, the students have suffered along all this time, and we have had problems like this on and off. It's not the first time that teachers have been transferred from the region. In 2015, there was a problem of insecurity, and all teachers were removed. In 2016, the same thing happened. 2018, the same problems happened again. Some time back, you remember there were teachers from Mandera who brought a petition to the Senate complaining about several issues involving discrimination, being threatened, religious bias, so on and so forth. Some of those things do not exist really, because even from the days in the 70s and 80s, when some of us were in schools, most of the teachers were coming outside from outside Northeastern, as they are referred to here as the non-locals. But there has been no problem like that. But of late, when coming of age of the devolution, and Kenyans becoming more sectarian than normal, with these political divides, things have turned out to be worse. Even before the insecurity incidents occurred where 2 teachers were killed and more than 100 public schools were closed, especially in Wajir. The non-local teachers form more than 60% of the teaching fraternity in northern Kenya. So you can imagine, in cases of teachers being removed, and especially the non-locals, what will happen to those schools in those areas, especially Wajir, Mandera, and Garissa. The cycle of recruiting teachers and deploying them to northeastern, especially counties, only to be transferred within 1 year or less, portrays TAC, I'm quoting, TAC to be incompetent, or the commission trying to use this area as a recruiting ground. So recently, the residents of northeastern were very critical of the TAC, and they have been complaining that the region is being used as a recruitment center, because teachers usually, especially in the secondary schools, the Board of Governors employs them, and they are contracted for at least 3 years, but none of them stays that 3 years. Even without insecurity, within 1 year, teachers are transferred because they come back down here complaining, and they are removed. So it becomes a problem for those areas. For now, the starting point to affected counties, we need to evaluate the performance of public education sector for the 20 years or more. Because in the earlier years, when exams were being done in the East African region, especially in the secondary school, people used to perform very well. But when things change, you will realize that students fail and they don't do well. And we don't know the reasons, because sometimes in the early years we had enough teachers, but of late we have a problem. The other issue which causes also teacher reduction in teachers in these areas is that the locals who come from those areas do not want education. I don't know the reason. Possibly they think that it's not paying well. And everybody wants to go for lucrative business or lucrative subjects. You will see students from northern Kenya going for accounts, medical courses, something called procurement, supplies and procurement, which is becoming a lucrative business of late in this country. So we need to support and enhance these things. Recently, after we had these problems, we talked as regional members of parliament. We went to the region and talked to the students, and most of them have decided that they want to join the education sector. Madam Speaker, I want the people of the target counties to reflect on our society's attitude towards the education sector, especially the lack of interest, as I said earlier. The past dismal performance in these regions, if I give you examples, in Wajir County, for example, in 2017, the mean grade was 3.1. That's a D. For the C+, the people who got at 58% of the candidates, 58 only, that's 2% of the candidates who did exams got C+ and above. So you can imagine the problems in these areas. When you go to subject by subject, only one student from one school called Ahmed Liban scored, grades-wise, scored A- in 2017 in the whole of Wajir County. And the performance, when it comes to subjects, mathematics and Kiswahili were the worst with 1.7 grades, a mean grade. So when you have such things, and Kiswahili as a language, one of the languages which is a sort of a must in most of the issues, courses you want to take, and mathematics, you can imagine now how will these people perform when it comes to sciences. And we have also enrollment of the science subject in those areas very poor. I have another example. When you come to computer studies or physics, no physics candidate in 2 sub-counties. In Wajir, we have 6 sub-counties. In 2 sub-counties, there was no physics candidate at all. In 3, the other 2 remaining, we had 1 each. So you can imagine what you expect from such areas, Madam Speaker. The highlights of when I go to KCPE, that's a standard 8, 4 students out of a total of over 5,000 had 400 and above. Only 4 students. All the others had below, and most of the students had 200 and below. So what do you expect from such areas when we continue with this, Madam Speaker? So I propose that what we have a lot of problems in these areas, and this is not only something which has started recently. So for the education sector in northern Kenya, we might require something the Americans, what they did like for Germany, like a Marshall Plan, which will enhance resource allocation in those areas so that the infrastructure, the school, the classrooms, the labs for sciences, computer labs, dormitories, because most of these residents are nomadic, especially in the rural areas, they will require boarding schools which are there, but the numbers are not sufficient. We will require also to encourage the residents to try and do skilled manpower, because they are not good at that. So in that case, we need possibly the counties and also the national government to increase the number of technical training institutes in these areas. Madam Speaker, if we don't take care of these students, and we are talking of insecurity in this region, and we know what is happening of late with the Al-Shabaab menace, most of these children will go to join Al-Shabaab, and that will not be helpful to this country. We are already having problems. Most of them are failures. They cannot manage. If you come and see most of the schools now in Nairobi, the universities, you will see a lot of students from the northern parts, but most of them are residents of Nairobi and the near environs, whose fathers and parents are capable of paying for their private school fees. Most of them are in parallel classes. So the locals themselves, those ones who are from poor families, cannot manage to come to Nairobi. So what happens is that they stay down there at home with nothing to do. Some of them go join the Al-Shabaab, as I said. Others just eat substance abuse, a lot of mirachi, a lot of bank smoking. And in the end, we will have citizens of this country who will not be of use to this country. Madam Speaker, with this time of age of radicalization, we need to support the students in this region. And I will ask my fellow Kenyans to bear with the region and try and help them, not run away once you get jobs there. People die, and as I believe, and most religions believe this, when your time reaches, you will die. Whether you are in Nairobi or whether you are in Mandera. Look at this man here. You come from nowhere. So when the time reaches, everybody will have his time or her time. So I will urge the teachers who have been employed to perform their duties, and please not run away because of insecurity, which is an off and on thing. Recently, after the last, in 2018, after the mass transfers, we had consultations with the Ministry of Education, TSC, and we came up with something called curriculum teacher and trained teachers, or curriculum assistants, where students who had scored C- and above were to be enrolled. We were told before that we don't have enough students who had scored that, but we were able to get, especially in Wajir, Mandera, and Garissa, enough students who could join teaching colleges, but most of them could not even afford to go there. So we agreed with the ministry that at least for the first batch, they will employ for Wajir around 300, who will be taken to the border areas where the other teachers cannot go, and those schools bordering the Somalia and around there. But up to now, it has not been implemented. Those curriculum assistants, the schools now, since the schools open, and we are closing the schools, I think tomorrow or the day after tomorrow in some places, that they have not gained, up to now, gainful employment, and they were not, the curriculum assistants have not materialized up to today. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to move the motion and ask Madam Alice to second. Thank you. Senator Alice, Professor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I stand to support the motion by Senator Dr. Abdullahi on education, the need to review and evaluate the state of education in northern Kenya. Madam Speaker, as per Article 43 F, education is a basic right for every person, Madam Speaker, and that is why when the government came in place in the year 2002, they decided to ensure that every individual goes to school by introducing capitation for free secondary and primary education. Madam Speaker, the current government, the Jubilee government, in the year 2018, from January, they also started to enhance this free education by enhancing the capitation of free primary and secondary education to ensure that all students are brought on board, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the case of Northern Kenya, I think is being affected by very many issues. First of all, there is the issue of lack of resources, and resources, Madam Speaker, in this case should be supplied by both the national government as well as the county government, and more especially when it comes to primary, that will in the future transit to secondary school. In addition to that one, Madam Speaker, teachers are supplied by the Teacher Service Commission. However, the recent case, Madam Speaker, we do realize that there was a lot of insecurity, and therefore the non-locals had to be transferred. I'm sure when one's life is in jeopardy, nobody will, in this case, be able to settle down and teach in such a school. However, what it is that I am sure the people of Northeastern, all stakeholders, together with the county government, should be able to sit together in a meeting and really identify what is the real reason why these teachers are being killed or why there is insecurity. Because if teachers that are not locals are being killed, that is a point that there is somebody who just comes there really identifying them. So that if the governor and all the political leadership would be able to sit on a round table, they'd be able to, in this case, identify the real reason behind this actual killing. Because otherwise, I'm sure with such insecurity, no teacher will be able to go there from another community. Secondly, Madam Speaker, one way out of that would be to ensure that there is a tailor-made kind of identification of qualified people from that particular area, and they are sent for training. I think our current CS from Labor, from East County, when he was a governor, identified skills that were missing in his county, such as doctors, engineers, masons, and he decided to set aside some funds from the county kitty, and in this case, send students, trainers to be trained for future engagement in that particular county. I'm sure if the same case would be applied in terms of teachers, Madam Speaker, I think there'll be a change. I think in this motion, there was also an issue of even non-attendance of school. I think that one touches on the actual inhabitants of the particular area, as I said, so that in this case, it is a matter of really going around and really sensitizing the inhabitants of Northeastern to ensure that they take their children to school. Otherwise, they'll miss out in the decision-making table in the future. They'll miss out when jobs are being applied, and for more particularly, when it comes to employment, of course, qualification will be considered. Madam Speaker, I think in this motion, the mover of the motion actually spoke of most of the people that are trained would normally go to other courses like accounting and name them. Maybe this is bordering on the way teachers have been treated in the past in that particular area. And of course, maybe they also got scared. And if other teachers from other areas, so those that got trained from that particular area were mistreated, no teacher in this case would like, or no particular individual would like to go for training as a teacher. So I'm actually, while I want to second this motion, I want to challenge the politicians from that area to sit together with the county government and be able to come up with the actual issue that is bedeviling education in that area. Otherwise, I know it is the responsibility of the national government to provide security so that those teachers that may agree to go and teach in that particular area are assured of security, Madam Speaker. Otherwise, I think this is a relevant motion. And in any case, for us to ensure that no distance will not be marginalized in the coming future, we must ensure that we have taken all the school-going children and ensure that they access education. They not only access, but then they are retained in the schools, and they also complete, Madam Speaker. I think I wish to really inform the mover also that the Ministry of Education is giving grants for development that is for 100% transition. However, the same grant is only available to those that are going to apply through our proposal, because not everybody requires such grants, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I think when the mover goes back to the county, in this case, you'll go and sensitize the schools that may require such grants to put in place the required infrastructure to ensure that they are applied, and maybe in this case, somebody to come and follow up with the Ministry of Education so that we have what I'm talking about as 100% transition. Otherwise, this is a very relevant motion, and I therefore second. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. I would therefore like to put the question, to propose the question, propose the motion that the question on the motion that aware that Article 43F of the Constitution of Kenya stipulates that every person has the right to education, and Article 53(1)(b provides that every child has the right to free and compulsory basic education. Also aware that education is a basic need and a tool for intellectual empowerment and socio-political development. Further aware that education is a shared function between the national and county levels of government, with the national government being responsible for primary, secondary, and higher education, while the county government is responsible for pre-primary education, village polytechnics, and home craft centers. Cognizant that both levels of government complement each other in promoting sustainable education. Concerned that the intake, uptake, and quality of education in northern Kenya has adversely been affected owing to discrepancies in public resources allocation, insecurity, skewed staffing, and teacher training in the region. Further concerned that both the school completion rate and the national examination outcomes in the region are poor, and that the number of students from northern Kenya who qualify for core courses in universities, colleges, technical schools, and village polytechnics is minimal compared to other parts of the country, noting with concern that due to insecurity and other related concerns, the Teachers Service Commission, which is the body responsible for the employment and deployment of teachers, has in the recent past taken steps to transfer non-local teachers from the northern region of Kenya to other parts of the country, concerned that the transfers have led to shortage of skilled teachers, which has been a major cause of the dismal performance in examinations in schools in the region. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to task the Standing Committee on Education to conduct an inquiry into the challenges facing the education sector in northern Kenya with a view to, 1, evaluating the effect of the teacher transfers from the region and recommending to the Ministry of Education policy measures to address the challenge. 2, evaluating the status of the education infrastructure in the region and proposing solutions to mitigate the current and looming challenges. 3, proposing mechanisms for enhanced resource allocation at both levels of government to facilitate improved education facilities. And 4, assessing school intake, completion levels in the region in order to ascertain the impact of the challenges facing the schools and how this disadvantages the region compared to other parts of Kenya, and proposing ways of addressing the challenges. And that the committee submits a report to the Senate within 3 months of adoption of this motion by the House. Honorable Senators, may I allow the members to sit so I can give a communication before we proceed? Honorable members, I have a communication to make on the visiting students and teachers from St. Francis Mangu High School in Kiambu County. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of the visiting students from St. Francis Mangu Girls High School, Kiambu. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Senator Gertrude Musurube.
Madam Speaker, I would like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to actually add a voice to this motion that has come to the floor of this House that has been moved by Senator Ali. And I want to say, to agree that it is so clear in the Constitution that education is a right, and it is a social right. And every child needs to be educated. Every child, needs education because it is not questionable. It is actually a given right. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that when we look at the issue of Northeastern has always languished behind in terms of education from very many years. And this is a very painful situation, Madam Speaker. And it is good that the issue of Northeastern is brought in this House and it is discussed. And even when we are discussing about issues of Northeastern, the performance of Northeastern is not good, and since it is not good, the children languish behind, even in terms of job placement. Madam Speaker, I want to say very candidly that when it comes to performance of children in school, there are many variables that come into play. We have some independent variables that will have an impact on the dependent variable. In the case of Northeastern, the many other factors that come into play are the independent variables. They are independent variables, and they have a direct impact on the performance of Northeastern, which is the dependent variable. Madam Speaker, I want to say that there is need to find out, to investigate at great length these independent variables. What are the causes of the independent variables, which definitely have a direct impact on the performance of Northeastern, which is not good. For instance, Madam Speaker, the issue of insecurity has always been there. It has been said many times in Northeastern. The insecurity issue that even leads to the death of some teachers, Madam Speaker. Constitutionally, security is a right. When you look at Article 43F, everyone has a right to security, Madam Speaker. And what I'm saying, Madam Speaker, even the teachers in Northeastern have a right to security, Madam Speaker. And if they do not have that security, Madam Speaker, they will psychologically be affected and they will not perform, Madam Speaker. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that when it comes to performance of children, Madam Speaker, I was a teacher before. I have taught in a secondary school. I have taught in the university. Performance cannot be a one-man show. It has to take concerted effort. Compromise. Madam Speaker, I want to say that teachers also have the workplace. They should be ready for the job market. Madam Speaker, what I'm suggesting is that there is need to really investigate the core issues, deal with the core issues, and then after dealing with the core issues, Madam Speaker, we can walk the same journey with the children in Northeastern, Madam Speaker, because we do not want to leave them behind. But again, we have to know that we are grooming leaders in this country. We are grooming people who will work in offices. We are grooming people who will take leadership of this nation. We are grooming people who will drive this nation very far, Madam Speaker. And so there is need for concerted effort. The tripartite relationship of the parents, teachers, and also the children is very important in order to address the issues of Northeastern. Then, after that, we can move forward and say that we have seen a marked improvement. There are teachers there, yes. The students do not have issues. They do not have problems. We can move together, Madam Speaker, because we do not want to leave the children of Northeastern behind. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity you have accorded me.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Aaron Kipkuru-Jeruyot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this chance. I rise to support this motion by my colleague, Senator Dr. Ali, and good friend, because I have particularly had the opportunity to listen to him narrate to me in informal sittings of the challenges that children, school-going children in Northeastern Province, and particularly the county that he represented this House, have had to go through because of this act of negligence by the government, where after the pressure and the noise that was raised by the teachers from other regions that were teaching in Northeastern Province, the government, without any due consideration of how the lives of the children that are school-going in that region will be affected, accepted and bowed down to the pressure and decided to withdraw the teachers from who are considered non-locals and the ones who had made this request. Madam Speaker, I do not want to seem to be making light of the challenges that the teachers who are teaching in Northeastern Province who are not local residents are going through, because some of them are members that are known to me, either from family or friends or people that I represent. And particularly, I remember the time that they visited us in this Senate. They came and sat here in the chamber. And during our usual breaks, they had the opportunity to share with us the kind of difficulties and the challenges that they face while working in the Northeastern Province. And therefore, it was within their right, as any right-thinking Kenyan will do when faced with the kind of challenges that they were facing, to agitate and go back to the employer the person who gave them the job and sent them to Northeastern Province to teach. It was within their right, and nobody is condemning them for the action they took, where they pulled out of the schools and came before TSC and presented their issues. However, Madam Speaker, what we expected that would have happened at that particular time is that TSC, understanding properly its mandate and knowing how education is so integral and important, it is so basic a human right that you cannot make a decision as callous as the one that was taken by TSC in resolving this issue. Because all they needed to do was to have a round table, sit down with the representatives, because these teachers had their own union representatives, the government security forces, because it's the duty of any government to provide security for its citizens in any part of this country, and also them as TSC, as employers of these teachers, to say, we have done our bit. Unfortunately, if it is issues to do with security, we have absolutely no mandate as TSC. But because we want to ensure that there is continuous learning in our institution without undue interference, what we have done is to call you as a government to give us a roadmap and tell us what mitigating plans you have to ensure that the teachers that are teaching in these institutions are well provided for, they have good security, they are sure that when they show up at work, they will provide the necessary services. Madam Speaker, it is not that Kenyans are not willing to work in any part of this country. Kenyans are peace-loving people. They love each other. But when your life is under threat, there is very little that you can do. You'd rather retreat to places that you're familiar with, to live amongst people that you have grown around. And therefore, when the teachers agitated and called for government to make this decision and said, please, you either provide us with security, and since nobody had heeded their pleas for such a long time, they saw it wise, out of the abundance of caution, they saw it wise to withdraw their services and request that TSC post them elsewhere. The other issues about cultural diversity and challenges in terms of religious practices that these teachers were raising, that is an issue that would have been handled by the local leadership. You call in the governor, the senator, the members of parliament, the MCAs, and have a sit down. Let the community understand that we live in a country that is multi-diverse in terms of religious practice and cultural issues, and therefore there is no need, if the issues that they were raising were true. I have no evidence to either doubt or not doubt the things they are saying, that they are being victimized because they don't profess a certain faith. But it was upon TSC to call upon the leaders and say, can you explain to your society that if certain practices are not put to a halt, then we cannot assure them that we will send teachers from other parts of the country into this particular region. It is against the law to either stop someone from working at a particular institution because they do not profess a particular faith, or they shouldn't be doing certain things, dress in a particular manner. It is important, and it is our duty as leaders to educate the people that we lead to understand the diversity of our country. And therefore, it was great absconding of duty by TSC, by the government agencies, in making this decision. I want to laud the decision by Senator Dr. Ali to bring this issue and this motion before this honorable House. Madam Speaker, it is quite telling that many residents nowadays, and by saying this, I'm not wading to the continuing debate on the supremacy and which house resolves issues and which one doesn't, but things are what they are. It is a known fact nowadays that when there are issues of national importance, Kenyans prefer that it be handled by the Senate. Because this is a house of reason. It is a house where, when matters are presented before it, you are assured that you'll get a solution, whichever way. And therefore, Senator Dr. Ali has proposed a very good roadmap of resolving this issue, where he's placed the matter rightfully where it belongs, that is before our Committee on Education, and he has even pointed them towards the direction that they need to look, the things they need to investigate. Therefore, I want to urge members of the Education Committee to not treat this matter casually, or even to consider it as soon as possible, so that if there be kids that are not going to school thanks to this particular challenge, this matter can be resolved as soon as possible, Madam Speaker, and TSC can be called to present their findings, because I want to be sure, I want to believe that by the time they were making this radical decision, then they were concluded that the society they are in had refused maybe to accede to them or give to them the kind of help that they needed to provide a conducive environment for their workforce. And therefore, Madam Speaker, it will be extremely important that this committee goes and even looks into the issues of the many challenges that are being posed by the new issue of delocalization that has caught up with our teachers. And many of our teachers are complaining. They are sending us messages as their members of parliament that please intervene. I've just received a letter on my desk on a Friday that next week you're supposed to report somewhere deep to the farthest point of this country. I have a family. I do not know what to do. We all know the earnings of a teacher. And when TSC makes these programs, you wonder, who are the people who sit down and think through some of these programs before making decisions? Why are we so careless with the way we treat our fellow Kenyans? The fact that you're seated comfortably at TSC headquarters and you earn a good salary and you have an air-conditioned office does not mean that you make decisions to disenfranchise other Kenyans without due consideration of how their lives will be interrupted, Madam Speaker. And therefore, it will be important that the Committee on Education looks into the issues that have been raised by Dr. Ali, consider also this emerging challenge that is being posed by delocalization, and many other issues that are disturbing our education sector, Madam Speaker. With those very many remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to support and congratulate Senator Dr. Ali for speaking up for his people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Moses Masika Wetangula.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this motion affects northern Kenya, which cuts across from Turkana to Wajir, Garissa, Marsabit, and to some extent, some marginal counties like Baringo, Samburu, Isiolo, and so on. Mr. Speaker, for a long time in this country, there's been benign neglect of children in the northern parts of this country, partly contributed by the prejudice caused by colonialism, when the area was rudely referred to as the Northern Frontier District. Subsequent governments treated the area as hardship, and many times civil servants have been posted to northern Kenya as a punishment, not as a duty to work for the people of this country. And Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, that profiling of northern Kenya has led to incredible injustices committed on the people of this region. People have been denied opportunities. People have been denied rights, to the extent, Madam Speaker, that many people in the northern part of Kenya have to find their ways in the lower parts of Kenya to get opportunities. And this is wrong, this is dangerous. Because, Madam Speaker, even if we don't go to the Constitution, it is an inalienable human right engraved in the Geneva Convention on children's rights, on human rights, on everybody's rights, that education is available to all. It was an MDG, it's an SDG under the UN to which we are signatory. Kenya, Madam Speaker, is a signatory to every convention on education and culture under UNESCO and with other UN agencies. So when this House, Madam Speaker, debates the issue of marginalization, inequalities, and neglect of Northern Kenya, we are but only bringing to the fore an issue that all caring and minding governments should be able to deal with. And Dr. Ali has very amply, Madam Speaker, articulated the issue. These days, whenever I listen to Dr. Ali, Madam Speaker, I see how age can mellow people. Now, when we were together in the lower house in the earlier years, he was an immensely noisy debater, and he could shout at the top of his voice to attract the attention of all and sundry. But the measured manner in which he has presented this motion, Madam Speaker, and the feeling that he gives to this House and the country is something this House must, as a duty, support. What is the problem of Northern Kenya, Madam Speaker? The problems of Northern Kenya are multiple. Some brewed in Northern Kenya, others brewed in Nairobi, and perfected in Nairobi. The confusion that there is at the Ministry of Education and the TSC has not helped. Total lack of coherence in terms of policy formulation, policy execution, and completely oblivious of the needs of the children of this country. Madam Speaker, both you and I come from communities that provide probably the largest quantum of teachers in this country. Anywhere you go, you'll find 70 to 80% of teachers come from our two communities. And they do a good job. It's not because they don't like going to these white-collar jobs and sitting in big offices and fiddling with accounts and making big money, but they have a calling to teach, to impart knowledge, to help other people in other places. You go to Turkana County, Madam Speaker, out of every 3-4 teachers, 2 will be coming from my community. And they enjoy it, even with rough terrain. What has failed Northern Kenya, Madam Speaker? It's not Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab came the other day. Al-Shabaab is now an excuse, not a reason for neglecting Northern Kenya. Al-Shabaab is a recent invention. And what happens these days is where there is a security failure and even criminals are striking and killing people, the perfect excuse is it was Al-Shabaab. Even without investigations. So criminals go smiling all the way because we have already profiled the crimes that have been committed without investigations. Now that we have a new constitution, now that we have devolution, the Committee of Education that Dr. Ali wants to look at this, and Dr. Ali himself and my distinguished colleague from Mandera, and I want to urge the senators from the Northern Kenya should enjoin themselves in the Education Committee in their sittings on these matters because they are so important to the areas and the people they represent. Madam Speaker, education, contrary to what Dr. Ali says, primary education is still national. It is not a count matter. But when we are dealing with the rights of children, That boundary is skin deep, as lawyers would call it. It is so thin that it should be ignored. I want to expect that counties of the northern Kenya, in cooperation and collaboration with the national government, have a master plan of how we want to manage education for the children. One time, Madam Speaker, about 4 years ago, there were disturbing pictures from Turkana. Children sitting under a tree, an AP constable with a Kalashnikov on his shoulder is pretending to be teaching children in a school. There's no teacher, there's no facility, there's no nothing. But at the end of the year, that child under a tree in Turkana, in Mandera, in Moyale, in wherever, has to sit the same exam with children from academies and well-provided for schools in Nairobi and other well-protected parts of this country. And they're supposed to pass and compete and go to secondary schools and the universities. That is the height of unfairness. In fact, Madam Speaker, I dare say, is an abuse of the human rights of the children of those parts of the country. Children are going to school, secondary schools, to sit examinations in sciences, and they have never seen a test tube, they have never entered a laboratory, they have never seen anything that warrants them competing with those who are spoon-fed everywhere else. This is the height of unfairness. And this Senate, as the defender of counties and their governments and the people therein, must take a firm position and obligate both the national government and the county governments to take full responsibility for the plight of these children. Madam Speaker, security is a national function. It doesn't make any sense, Madam Speaker, for criminals from Somalia, for those counties on the Somali frontier, to walk in and out of Kenya in such a predictable fashion. Kill children, kill teachers, kill innocent parents, and walk back. And we're a sovereign state, with an army standing at numbers close to 60,000, with policemen, with huge budgets that nobody audits, that have to protect the people of this country. So one of the problems of education in northern Kenya, Madam Speaker, is security. In an area that has such a fragile ecosystem, where parents have to walk hundreds of kilometers to look for pasture, to look for water, to look for livelihoods, one would have thought, Madam Speaker, the process that was started by colonial governments in the 50s and 40s would be enhanced by now. We would be having full-fledged boarding schools in strategic parts of northern Kenya. Boarding schools, not just because you are giving dormitories for children and some food of very poor quality for them to remain in school, but boarding schools in the real sense of the word, where, Madam Speaker, there are adequate housing for teachers as well. And in every cluster of those boarding schools, there must be a security apparatus to protect the children, to protect the teachers, and other auxiliary workers in these institutions, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, without that, and that is why I'm talking of a collaboration and cooperation between county governments and the national government. This House votes sufficient money to most of these counties. Turkana gets a very high dose of money. Mandera gets a very high dose of money. Madam Speaker, even without the segmentation and demarcation of responsibilities under Schedule 4, I would expect the county government of Mandera or Turkana or those counties that are affected to build a state-of-the-art facilities for boarding schools. And then they can use this House to obligate TSC and the Minister of Education to make sure they give them adequate teachers, to make sure where books are required, adequate books are given. Then at the end of the day, you can get children to sit exams with those in other schools and compete fairly. Madam Speaker, another thing that is of recent creation that is worrying is religious undertones that are emerging that are not helpful to this country. Madam Speaker, you saw, and I'm sure my colleagues did see, in a school in Loyangalani, in Marsabit, where school children descended on teachers, and the only problem was those teachers were from elsewhere, and thoroughly beat them up. This is not a problem of those children, Madam Speaker. This is a problem of moral decay in our society. When we were growing up, we were told, anybody the age of your father is called father. Anybody the age of your mother is called mother. And the teacher was like your parent. You could never imagine a situation, Madam Speaker, where a school child can wake up and physically beat up a school teacher teaching that child thoroughly, to the extent that some teachers went to hospital. This moral decay, Madam Speaker, is also something that the committee must address. Where have we taken the wrong turn? Why would a child whose brain ought not to have been contaminated by the vagaries of religion and ethnicity and so on, think that Senator, because she's from Kajiado, has no right to be a teacher in somewhere else? These are issues that we must address. The third issue, Madam Speaker, that this committee must look at is the issue of inadequacy and, may I beg for a little more time, Madam Speaker?
Yes, Senator. We can add you 3 minutes?
5.
Okay, 5 minutes.
The issue of inadequacy of staffing. Madam Speaker, if you go to schools in Nairobi here, you'll find teachers piling on teachers. Some don't even have duties. You go to schools in northern Kenya, you find a school with class 1 to 8, registered by the government, funded by the government, has 2 TSC teachers. 2, sometimes 1. The rest are school dropouts, policemen, and others who pretend to be teachers. Madam Speaker, this House must interrogate thoroughly the Teacher Service Commission on their policy of recruiting and staffing of teachers in marginal parts of this country. There are so many teachers on the streets of our towns, Madam Speaker, and you know, I'm sure when you go to Kisumu, you are confronted regularly by tens of hundreds of children who have gone to school, gone to TCCs, registered with TSC, and waiting to be deployed to teach, and are ready to be deployed anywhere. But nobody is caring. Why would we be telling school boards of management to recruit untrained teachers when we have teachers who have been trained around the streets? These are the big questions, Madam Speaker. And the rationalization of staffing to create equity. So that if we have teachers that number hundreds of thousands in this country, sometimes we're told that 250,000, 280, 300,000, let's look at the demographic profile of the country. How many schools are there in northern Kenya? What is the optimal number of teachers they require? Even if a school had a shortage of 1 or 2, 3 teachers, it's understandable. But how do you have a school with standard 1 to 8 with 1 TSC teacher? And the same TSC is asking NEC to prepare exams and send to those schools and tell them to compete to look for spaces in Alliance High School, in Mangu High School, in Lenana High School, and so on. This is the big problem, Madam Speaker. It's an annihilation of population. Because if you can't give children education, Madam Speaker, you are destroying their future. And that's why they find that the only hope is criminal activities. We'll ask ourselves questions whose answers we know, Madam Speaker. And I want to urge Dr. Ali that please see this to the end, that this committee must prepare a proper and thorough report answering to all these 4 questions that you have raised in your motion. And bring the report here and ask the House to give it proper time to ventilate for Kenyans to know, Madam Speaker, that if we go the way we are going, then we'll have no moral or legal capacity to continue crying against crime because we're breeding crime by our neglect of children. Madam Speaker, let me finish by urging that among those this committee must talk to is internal security, because security is everything. Even I had in anger Dr. Ali asking here that those teachers from down country in northern Kenya should come back. That is not the way to go. That is not the way to go. Those children are our children. And they must be taught by the good teachers that are teaching other children elsewhere. So we should not give in to criminals by saying, transfer the teachers because we can't handle security. Those
recruit teachers for this particular region, not only in Northeastern, but also in all other regions in this country, to consider having them stay for 5 years as a policy. We have this particular issue in all our counties, where teachers apply for a job, get the job in our counties, within 1 year request to come out in those areas because they've already achieved to be in the TSC payroll. And therefore leaving those particular stations unattended. And therefore, the first point here is fees in our secondary schools. We didn't have watchmen in our schools, and even the matrons we are talking about today. So I still also believe that we need to look into the morals and values of our children and the community in large. Because there are schools, surely, we cannot afford a CCTV. We cannot afford an armed security to be in the gate 24 hours. But we need children to learn. And therefore, our parents should also talk to our children that you can be learned anywhere, even under a tree. I know my chairman here, who is seated next to me, possibly went to school in Northeastern, did not go to a school which have a CCTV camera. Neither I. But we went through schooling. We didn't burn schools. We didn't burn our old dormitories. Parents need to look into the morals and values of our children. We need to make our children believe that they can be taught by everybody, that they can be taught by anybody in Kenya, depending that is a trained teacher. We have a situation, Madam Speaker, today, where many of our schools are striking simply because an old head teacher who has been in our school for so many years and failing those students have been transferred out of that school. And therefore, children have been made to believe we are not going to pass exams because our old teacher has been transferred. We need to talk to our children. We need to let our children know that life needs flexibility. You cannot be taught by one teacher forever. You cannot only perform in exams because you have an equipped
Your time is up, Senator. Give her 1 minute, please.
It's important that our children believe that you can perform anywhere in this country, you can perform in any situation, depending that you have the will yourself. So I want to encourage also, as we look into this motion, I want to encourage all parents in all schools, even in Nairobi, to talk to their children so that we can change the minds of the children we are seeing today. The issue of our teachers being beaten in one of the northeastern schools. I don't want to speak into that, but I want to say that we want to make our children, let our children respect all our teachers, so that we don't just encourage teachers to go there to be beaten or to be killed, because life is also sacred. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mohammed Malim.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this very important motion. Let me thank my distinguished colleague from Wajir for bringing this motion before the Senate. Madam Speaker, the state of education in northern Kenya, in fact, when I say northern Kenya, the definition which my decision colleague from Bungoma gave was very wide. Specifically, I think we are talking of regions, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and to some extent, Marsabit, Tana River, and the rest actually have got the same similarity in this particular situation. Madam Speaker, sir, first of all, let me thank the gallant sons of and the daughters of Kenya who have contributed to the education of the children of northern Kenya from time immemorial to today. Because a lot of teachers who have taught in those schools were people who came from outside those regions. We were taught by people who came from as far as Nyanza, part of Eastern, part of Western, part of Coast. And in fact, it is very important to recognize the contribution that those sons and daughters of Kenya made to that region. It's not the first time that we are having non-locals teaching in that region. It has been there before, it has worked, it succeeded. And we have never had a situation where people talk about racism or abuse because of religious difference or cultural difference, and in fact something which is coming up today, which is very unfortunate. So I want to recognize the contribution the rest of Kenyans had to that region in terms of teaching. Madam Speaker, teachers, you know, when you look at northern Kenya, at independence, you will see there were very few schools. I think the primary schools were limited. There was one in Wajir, one in Garissa, one in Mandera, one in Marsabit. In fact, the one in Wajir started in 1948, many years back. It's the oldest school, primary school there. But there was no secondary school in Northeastern Province at independence. Wajir secondary school started in 1965. But when you look at where the region is today and where we were then, you would thank, you know, successive leaders of this country, I think, from the region and elsewhere, for the effort which was made today to reach where we are. At one time, teachers were the largest workforce of civil servants, public servants in the region. That showed that the region also appreciated the importance of education, and they took their children to teacher training colleges, and in fact, teachers were the largest workforce. This trend, and this then at one stage, the substantial number of those teachers were from outside the region, outside northeastern region, northern Kenya. So at no one time, teachers from the rest of Kenya was in scarcity there. Madam Speaker, as time passed, things continue changing. And in fact, when we had the free primary education, which was announced and implemented by government in 2003, then schools became just too many. Schools became very many. In fact, the number of teachers that become, you know, the facilities were overwhelmed, and hence the shortage of teachers. to the extent that you see the ratio of children to the child to teacher actually became very drastic, very high. That's the time when TSC, of course, attempted to employ, and in fact, quite a number of people, teachers who were there, were not transferred there, but they were employed there. When the vacancies occurred, in an attempt to actually deal with the gaps, TSC did employ teachers, and most of the teachers actually came from all over Kenya, and they were employed. And the teachers we see today in that region were not actually transferred by somebody sitting in TSC, as it used to happen many years back, but teachers who were employed because they took for jobs in that region and they were employed there. But Speaker, sir, the recruitment numbers also were not actually matching the gaps that were there, and shortages were there. So in fact, as mentioned by one of the colleagues, you see a school with up to standard 8 will have only 2 teachers, the head teacher and somebody else. And because of also CDF, and on the advent of CDF in the 9th Parliament, a lot of schools were built, infrastructure which were not there were built, and that's why we're getting a lot of schools, but teachers were not coming, and that's what shortage we got. Madam Speaker, the current situation that we are in, again, has been exacerbated by the confusion that was created by insecurity in the region. And that insecurity affected the whole region. And in fact, Al-Shabaab, when it came with tactics to divide Kenyans, and we failed for them. In fact, it's unfortunate that we see that Al-Shabaab is trying to divide Kenyans on religious lines, and you see the reaction which Kenyans have can be very terrible because we are giving in. So what happened, unfortunate incidents in the quarry workers, unfortunate incident in the Garissa University, the unfortunate incident which happened in Wajir, then all this stuff has now been, lumped together to affect the whole region. In some parts of the region where there were no incidents of any insecurity, people just started moving around, and TSC gave in. In fact, TSC proved very incompetent, in dealing with the matters because it's their mandate to deal with this. And in fact, instead of looking at TSC how best to rationally deal with the matter, they overreacted. In fact, the confusion we are in. But I think what you are saying is this Senate, as a national, the Senate of this country, must be seized with the matter and see what needs to be done in terms of information gathering, what is happening in that region, what are the issues. If you are on the ground, in fact, seeing is believing, you will see that the security, which has been very much hyped, could not be there. The insensitivity, the issue of racism and people being discriminating, calling people names, they will see this is not there. But I would like to say that once we go there on the ground, we will accompany, we will be very willing as senators from the region to accompany you guys, the company, sorry, will accompany. So let's deal with the matter squarely, on the face. Because we can't run away from a problem that is there. And there's no way schools in the northern region will be closed. There's no way that we will have teachers only from one part of this country. Madam Speaker, the education system over the years has been diluted to the extent that, you grow up in a village, you go to a village nursery school, a village primary school, a village secondary school, then you come to university. And these days, universities have got campuses in the villages. So you are not building a national character. Do you know what time I went to Ojia High School and I went to Nakuru High School many years back? Many of us came to national schools, and that time there was integration. So I think, and now when you make sure teachers are also all from one region, it confuses the matter further. So, Madam Speaker, this motion has come at the very right time. We require maybe proper new policy direction, if at all the Minister of Education is capable to drive that policy. We have thought of one time, education for the nomadic population, pastoralists, because they are moving from one place to another. Nothing has happened since now almost going to 60 years after independence. We need a policy direction that can assist, that can make teachers feel safe. Teachers, it's unfortunate when teachers lie, when they come on TV and say they lie and say that they've been harassed, sexually abused, they've been done this, they've been called names, they've been, and the children are listening. So it's very unfortunate. So I would not like to go back there. I know our teachers who are in the region wanted to get an excuse to be transferred out, and TSC insensitively agreed with them. But we would like to have TSC to play its mandate. And Kenyans, the security ministry or the security department of this country must also take their role. So where there are teachers who are really, I know on the border towns with the Somalia and the rest, it can be an issue, but not in the whole region. So I think the motion has come at the right time. I think Senator Ali is asking us to evaluate the effect of these transfers and what's happening in the region. He's asking us to evaluate the status of education infrastructure in the region. It's only CDF that has been doing a lot of work there, but I think we need the massive investment. The other thing is, you know, if you look at the education is not devolved, it's national. But nothing stops, I think, a governor from building schools. I think if I were one of them, I would build schools and go to jail for them. I mean, that's a better way of going to jail, you know, instead of misusing money for other things that actually are happening in the region now. That you will have actually contributed to the well-being of your region if you actually invest in education. And I know in some counties when teachers actually were scarce, counties have done very well. I think Mandera, Wajir, and Garissa did a lot in terms of employing and training teachers to actually keep on the momentum, and the schools went on. So, Madam Speaker, this motion has come at the right time. We need the support of every Kenyan. We need the Senate support. We will not be emotional about these things. The young time to being emotional should be left out. I think matters have been sometimes over-exaggerated. So we stop exaggerating. Let us face the facts and go there and get the facts and see what best we can recommend to the authorities that be, so that, you know, it can be implemented. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to support.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki. And I would direct that we reduce the time to 10 minutes because there are more members who are interested in discussing. 2 more members.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia mswada wa elimu katika eneo la Northeastern. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza ningempa kongole Seneta wa Wajir, Seneta Abdullahi, kwa kuleta mswada huu katika bunge la Senate, kwa sababu ni wakati mwafaka kujadili hali ya elimu katika sehemu hiyo. Na hali ya elimu katika sehemu hiyo ya Northeastern inaathiri sehemu za Lamu vile vile na sehemu za Tana River, ambako wanaathirika zaidi na ujambazi wa watu wanaoiba ng'ombe na Al-Shabaab ambao pia wanavamia sehemu za Lamu na kwingineko. Mheshimiwa Spika, tatizo la Northeastern si tatizo la sasa, kwa sababu ni tatizo limekuwa kwa muda mrefu. Kulikuwa na upungufu wa walimu, kulikuwa na upungufu wa madarasa, shule ambazo ziko kule bado hazijaboreshwa za kisasa. Ukiangalia katika sehemu zingine, wanafunzi sasa wanaingia shule kwa vitambulisho vile vya biometric vya kisasa. Ukiangalia shule nyingi mjini Nairobi zimeanzisha mfumo huo. Lakini Northeastern wanaingia shule darasa pia hamuna. Wanaingia shule ambazo wengi wanakaa chini ya miti, na hiyo inasababisha kwamba walimu wanaosomesha sehemu zile hawana motisha ya kusomesha wanafunzi vizuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, tatizo lote ni maendeleo. Sehemu iwapo itaendelea, tutakuwa na shule nzuri, tutakuwa na mabweni ya kisasa, tutakuwa na madarasa ya kisasa, walimu watakuwa na hamu na ari ya kwenda kufundisha katika sehemu kama zile. Lakini ikiwa maendeleo yatakuwa bado ni duni katika sehemu zile, walimu wengi watakuwa hawana nafasi, hawana hamu ya kwenda kufanya kazi katika sehemu kama zile. Hakuna ambaye anataka kufanya kazi ambayo sehemu haina maendeleo, sehemu ambazo hazina malazi ya kisawasawa, sehemu ambazo hazina vyoo vya kisawasawa, sehemu ambazo hazina maji ya mfereji ama maji ya kutiririka ambao wanaweza kutumia kwa muda wa masaa 24, sehemu ambazo hazina umeme katika mashule ama katika makazi ambao wataishi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tatizo la kutatua ni kwamba lazima maendeleo yafanyika katika sehemu zile. Lazima serikali ijenge shule za kisasa, serikali iendeleze masehemu hizi, ipeleke maji, ipeleke umeme, na vile vile pia ipeleke usalama, kwa sababu usalama ndio unahakikishia kila mtu katika taifa la Kenya kwamba ana haki ya kuishi na kufanya kazi katika sehemu yote ambayo anapendezwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo la pili, lazima pia tuangalie hali ya kitamaduni ya zile sehemu ambazo ziko. Kwa mfano, ukiangalia utamaduni wa sehemu zile zinazozungumziwa ni kwamba wengi ni Waislamu. Wengi ni Waislamu na wengi wanajaribu kulinda utamaduni wao wa Kiislamu. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi kusema kwamba walimu wote watakaopelekwa kule watakuwa kwa mfano ni wa dini ambao ni tofauti na ya Kiislamu. lazima tuhakikishe kwamba sehemu kama zile tunapata walimu wengi ambao wanatoka katika either makabila yao ama wanatoka katika tamaduni ambazo zinaingiliana. Kwa mfano, walimu ambao watakuwa ni Waislamu wanaotoka sehemu yoyote wataingiliana kwa urahisi na wakazi wengine wa North Eastern kuliko walimu kutoka sehemu zingine. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hii tamaduni lazima tuziangalie kwa makini, kwa sababu na hakika kwamba wanafunzi wengi ambao labda hawafanyi vizuri katika elimu ya darasani kule North Eastern wanafanya vizuri katika elimu ya dini, na hii inamaanisha kwamba walimu wanaosomesha dini wanaweza kupewa fursa ya kwenda katika colleges za kufundisha walimu, wapewe somo la Kiingereza peke yake, ili wahakikishe kwamba wanaweza kusomesha kwa Kiswahili, Kiingereza na Kiarabu, ili mwanafunzi wakati yuko katika madrasa katika sehemu zile za North Eastern ambazo hakuna shule za kutosha, wanapata sehemu, wapata fursa ya kusoma elimu yote ya dini na elimu yote ya dunia. Hiyo itasaidia kupunguza. Mheshimiwa Spika, naomba unilinde kutokana na waheshimiwa mawakili wangu, maseneta wawili mawakili ambao wanazungumza kwa sauti zaidi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nasema kwamba iwapo tutaangalia, tutachunguza kwa makini utamaduni wa watu wa North Eastern, tutaona kwamba wengi wao wanaweza kusoma lugha ya Kiarabu, wanasoma masomo yao ya dini kwa ukamilifu zaidi, lakini masomo ya shule hawasomi kwa ukamilifu, kwa sababu wale walimu wanaofundisha mara nyingi wanatofautiana kitamaduni. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo la mwisho ambalo ningependa kuchangia ni kwamba serikali ifanye mipango zaidi ya kuweza kupeleka maendeleo katika sehemu ya hizi ambazo zimeathirika. Tumeona kwamba zile fedha zinazotengwa katika sehemu zile, kwa mfano Equalization Fund na zile zinginezo, hazitoshi kuhakikisha kwamba maendeleo yanakwenda katika sehemu zile. Kwa hivyo tuhakikishe kwamba serikali inapeleka miradi mingi ya maendeleo katika sehemu zile, inapeleka maji, inapeleka shule, inapeleka umeme, kuhakikisha kwamba sehemu zile ambazo zimetengwa na ziko mbali na Nairobi wanapata huduma kama zile ambazo zinapatikana Nairobi. Ikifanyika hivyo, watu wengi watakuwa na hamu na ari ya kwenda kufanya kazi katika sehemu zile, na hili tatizo la elimu na matatizo mengine ya biashara yataweza kuisha katika maeneo kama yale. Mheshimiwa Spika, nachukua fursa hii na kushukuru kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia elimu katika eneo la North Eastern Province. Asante.
Senator Pareno Judith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this motion, and I rise to support. Madam Speaker, it is interesting that we are now discussing this, debating this motion about the status of education in northeastern Kenya. And yet, Madam Speaker, we are also processing a petition. The joint committee of the Education Committee of the Senate and the National Security Committee is also tasked to handle a petition that was brought before this House and referred to the said committees by this House. So, Madam Speaker, there is this motion and there is that petition that is being handled by the joint committee, Madam Speaker. So I think at some point we'll have to check how the two can be merged so that whatever outcome should be reflecting what both petitions, because both the petition and the motion is talking about the same thing. Madam Speaker, we had a chance I had a chance to hear from some of these complainants, and I had a chance to also read that petition, which has just the same things as what this motion is talking about. And Madam Speaker, the complaints that we now have is that we just don't have a security situation in this time. It's not about security alone. And I'm now wondering who to believe, Madam Speaker, because if you hear the submissions of some of the members of the Senate, especially from that region, they say that it is not what the allegations that are being brought forth by the teachers that have caused the transfers that have been done are not true. But Madam Speaker, I personally had a chance to talk one-on-one with some of these petitioners. And in fact, before the committee They broke down because of what they were narrating, Madam Speaker. And if you're told that in some of these schools, not all of them, because we can't say that every county in Northeastern has the same problem, or that the problems are the same in every institution. In some of the institutions, named institutions, and named people, and named teachers, we are told that there was stoning of teachers. That is a report we have. That is a petition we have. In some of the institutions, you are told that a teacher was assaulted and slapped before the wife in a school because they both happened to be teaching in the same school. A report that actually there's discrimination and you're not allowed to take sick leave, you're not allowed to take maternity leave, and those ladies who are narrating were breaking down to an extent that we were also breaking down with them. Madam Speaker, I want to say that because this is a house that can tell the truth, because everybody is saying their own thing, there are those who are saying it is a lie, that it is not true, while the teachers are saying it is true before us, before our own eyes. The National Commission on Human Rights submitted, and Madam Speaker, those things will be tabled in this house, that it is true that there are some of those allegations, that some of those allegations are true. That they are called, I don't know, Nywelengumu, in some, and they feel discriminated. And we have that evidence from the National, the Commission on Human Rights, and we have it from the TSC. TSC itself, an officer in TSC, saying that we have investigated this and it is true, and that is why we have taken these teachers away. Of course, we want to say that the security issue is in itself an issue. But one thing that we must do as a Senate is to find out the truth. Who is lying between all these people who are saying it is not true, others saying it is true? Because on one part you have the ministry saying it is not true. On the other part you have the leader saying it is not true. Then on the part of that victim who says I'm a victim as a teacher, the teacher says it is true. On the part of Commission on Human Rights, they say it is true. On the part of the teacher service that actually sends these teachers for service, they say it is true. I think the only savior on this situation, aside from the security situation that should be handled separately, because it is real, is for this Senate to send this committee. The committee is already setting dates. There is a joint committee of education and national security is already setting dates to visit these counties affected and to investigate for itself what is the truth, so that we can table it and discuss it before this Senate, Madam Speaker. So I want to say that this is a very serious issue. If our children are not getting education because of discrimination, we must root it out. If it is the children that are in discipline, we must bring back discipline. In fact, I dare say that most of us were taught by non-locals. I was taught by Mr. Manyara in primary, who was my head teacher, and Mr. Malonza in primary, who was a head teacher. I have gone to school, Kipsigis girls, where there are all sorts of tribes there. It is not about tribes, it's not about regional issues. It is about the education, and we must root it out without discrimination and without fear or favor. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Senator Irungu Kangata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I take this opportunity to thank the move of this bill. Madam Speaker, of this motion, I rise to support this motion 100%. Reasons being that I've always had this notion that Northeastern will be the area that is going to assist Kenya to become a developed society for several reasons. One, when it comes to the issue of land as a factor of production, land can only be rationally exploited where it is in abundance, and we do not have any other place where we have land in abundance like Northeastern region. 70% of the entire land mass of this country is in the northern region. For instance, Madam Speaker, we have now the so-called the Big Four. One of the pillars of the Big Four is the housing programs. If we wanted to, for instance, to urbanize, and we all know urbanization is one of the key ingredients for a modern society, we can only probably urge the government to build more houses and urbanize the entire region of Northern Eastern, because there are people do not have small titles, which hinder the whole idea of bringing people together, urbanizing. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I say Northern region is the region that is going to assist Kenya move forward. If you talk things like large-scale farming, those are issues that can only occur in a more rational manner in the northern region because of availability of huge lands. And you know, when you have large-scale farming, you're able to produce things at a cheaper price, and therefore make Kenya a food basket. Madam Speaker, you know that region. It has what we call an unseasonal river, which flows the entire year. And therefore, if we can be able to leverage on those resources in those regions, Madam Speaker, that is how we can be able to develop. And therefore, I'm arguing that point. It may appear as if it's off what we are discussing, but rather it buttresses the whole idea that northern region should not be discriminated. That northern region, it makes all the sense for us to put more money there, so that it gives us what we call a leg up as we strive to industrialize. And that, I would say, some positive discrimination in terms of sending more resources in that region, to me, may assist not only people of that region, even those of us who come from other regions of Kenya. And a good example, Madam Speaker, in that philosophy has been showed by unfortunate incidents of where people have been killed when they are quarrying. But when you see those people who have been killed, they come from central region. It shows those people had, in their own way, in their own wisdom, seen some resource in that region, and they had gone there to exploit. So meaning, when you develop northern region, you not only develop the locals, but you develop the entire country. And therefore, this motion, it is trying to say, no, what do we do about lifting education standards in that region? So therefore, we should support that motion with the understanding we are not only targeting the northern region, but we are assisting that region to become the catalyst of development for the entire country, Madam Speaker. That is why I've always been perturbed by reports that we do not have a tarmac road that links the three main towns of that region, that is Garissa, Wajir, and Mandera. I am happy, I don't know, maybe the mover will say when he is replying that there is already a contract that is ongoing, rolling out towards ensuring those three towns are joined together. If indeed that project is there, we need to tell the government that is good. It is quite important. We need to celebrate that. And I think Jubilee government needs to be congratulated and celebrated, because by doing that, you are going to end the so-called so many years of discrimination. Madam Speaker, I make reference to the 1965 sessional paper, I think number 10, that was tabled before the National Assembly by Moi Kibaki, if I'm not wrong, or Tom Mboya, either of them. It was Tom Mboya, which was arguing that you put more resources in certain region and then development then percolates. I think that was a flawed argument because one, economic theory appears to buttress the idea that the best way to develop people is the bottom up. You go directly to where people are and then you move up. Number two, you find regions where land has been divided so much. I'm not so sure you can get the best results once you put more resources in those regions. So I'm arguing the current modern economic thinking supports the whole idea of us putting more resources in the northern region. And then that area now becomes the launch pad for the expansion of our economy. So therefore, this idea of trying to ask ourselves, how can we uplift northern region in terms of education? To me, that is important, because I think education touches what we call the human capital. It is the human capital that you are trying to sharpen, that you are trying to address. And therefore, if, for instance, if you were to ensure we have more graduates from northern region, we have more educational institutions from that region, I think that way we will be able to have a situation where that region can continue spanning and attracting the best ideas, the best brains from the entire country. And they will also be contributing to the betterment of this country. Madam Speaker, I'm aware that various education infrastructural projects, they have lagged behind. I think also members of parliament from that region have they need to account for the CDF money, for instance. Governors from those regions, they also need to account what have they done with that region. Of course, those problems are not unique in the northern region. Even in these other regions, you'll find there are people who don't have schools, and there are members of parliament there. There are people who don't have desks, and there are governors and other entities there. So but on the other hand, I think it is quite important, as we look at this motion, once the task force is constituted, we ask ourselves, what has happened to the resources that have been gone there? But of course, I understand devolution has started the other day. It's only 6 years. And Northern Eastern has suffered discrimination for so many years with those people who had that notion that you need to send money in certain region, and then that development percolate in other regions. Madam Speaker, with the discovery of oil in northern parts of this country, with other potential resources in that area, including, by the way, solar energy, which is, I'm told, there's a huge project in Garissa, which is harnessing solar. To me, the future clearly belongs to that region, and therefore I stand to support this motion on the notion that I know once we do that, we shall not only be targeting the people of Northeastern, but I know that the benefit will percolate in the entire country. Thank you.
And lastly, Senator Kilonzo Tulia Jr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I applaud Senator Ali for this motion. Madam Speaker, I've been looking at the marginalization policy in terms of where Senator Ali comes from. And Madam Speaker, the picture on page 29 of the marginalization policy shows the whole of Northeastern region as marginalized. Madam Speaker, what is happening in Wajir, Marsabit is further marginalization, and we must condemn it in the strongest terms possible. That's one. Number two, we have been accused by people we know that we have been doing things that do not concern us. This is one of those matters that Senate must distinguish itself by making sure that the people in the northeastern frontier are treated like the Kenyans who live in Murang'a, Nairobi, Kiambu, and Makueni. We are not going to eliminate discrimination by discriminating further. There are two categories of people in Kenya who are treated as if they are nobody. And I'll add a third one. First are teachers. There is no person seated here who has not passed through a teacher. And the teachers are the poorest. There's no person seated here who doesn't have security. Teachers don't have security. The second category is doctors. The third one is policemen. People who take care of us are mistreated. If we have to go there, all of us, and I plead with this Senate, if the second session after going to Eldoret is to go to Northeastern, let's go and camp there, all of us, to show that we are also, we do not fear the insecurity that people claim. Let us show it is secure. Let us give hope to the children who are there. Education, like Mandela said, is the greatest engine of personal development. A child of a person can become a president. A child of a mine worker can become the head of that mine. We can only do so through this, and I applaud you. And we must continue saying that teachers must be protected, students must be protected, the future of this country, trust me, is not even the oil we are talking about in Turkana. The future of Kenya lies in making sure that the child in Marsabit, Mandera, any place gets the education you see in Nairobi, the education you see in the schools in Kiambu, the education you see children of the people like us in these modern schools. That is the way to eliminate radicalization of those children. The minute we treat them differently. I went to a school where there's persons who are disabled and a normal school, and they wanted to fence it. When you discriminate these children, you treat them like you've put a fence. Nairobi is better than us. Why not go to Somalia and become gangsters? This is the way to do it. Let us get to the bottom of this. I support 100%. Consider me a friend of the committee, because this is something I believe in and I have a passion in, and we must be able to, this Senate must deal with this effectively, so that these Kenyans and these young people can start believing in this country. People are leaving and going to other countries. I met a gentleman who is in Japan. He's an architect. He went there as 19, now he's Japanese. He's working well. The next president might come from Wajir. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, it is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 1st of August, 2018, at 2:30 p.m.